Hey guys, in this video I'll quickly be showing you how to create a to-do app that's really basic. So for example, you have some items here that you can check, so on and so forth. If you actually check them, you have a checked off thing that appears there and then they're removed, or you can actually go ahead and remove these items as well. So I'm going to show you how to create that with variants and interactive components, along with obviously prototyping, so do stick around. But before I even begin, do subscribe, do hit the like icon, and do let me know if you need anything else. But other than that, let's just get started. One disclaimer though, I'm not going to share my video because I'm not completely well, but I still wanted to create the video, so here it is. So here is basically what I've been doing, and I can go ahead and do that from scratch. So let's just go ahead and actually create a separate file. I'm going to name this to do in the works or anything along those lines. I'm going to press A. I'm going to create an iPhone 11 frame. I'm going to go to my prototype settings. Let me just open the prototype as well so I can see it. I'm going to go to my prototype settings and I am going to go ahead and remove this iPhone. So by default, I don't want an iPhone. I just want a blank screen. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the border radius to 32 because I think that personally looks good to me. I'm going to give a name to this application, probably my to do or something along those lines. Going to choose a font, Montserrat or something because I like that. Make it 20, bold, and choose a gray color, which is again coming from Tailwind. So here we have our header. I also want to give an icon on the right. So I'm just going to go ahead to my Iconly plugin. Let me just go ahead and go there. Iconly. Choose a category icon to be placed. I think let's just go ahead and place this one. You can also place this one, that looks fine as well, but let's just work with this one for now. So here we have our icon. Let me just make it smaller. Let's just go ahead and actually place it inside of our larger layer. And let's just see how that looks. I think this looks good. Let's just go ahead and make this an auto layout and basically attach it to the left and the right. Then I'm going to give a maximum amount of space in between them and going to give some spacing from the left and the right via the auto layout properties. So I think that looks good. Now let's just go ahead and create our category blocks. So the category blocks that we want to create look something like this. So I'm going to go ahead, create an auto layout frame. Well, for now, I'm just going to create an auto layout container. I'm going to give it a background, going to give it a number here and then a title here, title, content, or whatever it is. Gonna make this smaller, and I think we can make this one smaller as well. Probably 16 would be fine. Yep, that looks good. Gonna give this an auto layout. Gonna give this a padding all around, 16 pixels. Gonna give this a 4 pixel spacing in the middle. I'm going to make this 12 pixel on the edges. So here we basically have our category picker, or you can say that, and I think that looks good. Let's just go ahead, first of all, make this a component. I'm going to change the numbering as well. Number, let's just make it category / active. So that's going to be our active one. Let's just go ahead and detach it, make it inactive, and actually we can just, yeah, I think that's fine. Let's just go ahead and actually change the border here. So I think let's just give it a 300 stroke, a 300 gray stroke, make this white, and press enter to select the content and make this gray 900. So here and let's just reduce the opacity here. So here we have our components. I'm going to go ahead and place them here. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag them here again, and I'm going to make this a component, add these items here. Let's just see what else do we have. 5 today, 8 tomorrow, 12 personal, and stuff along those lines. 5 today. Let's just change that. What is this? Okay, so let's just go ahead and actually change that. So I'm going to make it today, and then duplicate it, and then change that to inactive. 5 today, 12 tomorrow, 13 personal, and then probably 8 groceries. or maybe something shopping or something along those lines. So that's fine. One thing I want to do is I actually want to give them the same amount of height and width. So the width obviously is the same, but I'm going to make this fixed, and I'm going to make this fixed as well. So here we have our categories at the top, which looks fine. Now let's just go ahead and actually add a category title as well. Categories, and reduce the opacity. Give this an auto layout again. I'm going to remove this one. Yeah, exactly. Give this an auto layout, and probably align it to something like this, and change the spacing in between this and the title to probably 12. 12 looks fine. Go ahead to our prototype and enable horizontal scrolling so we can scroll on the left and the right. So the categories heading is also jumping around, so we don't want to go ahead and make all of this scrollable. We just want to make this thing scrollable, so I'm going to go ahead and do that again. So now we can scroll through the categories, and that looks good. Similarly, let's just go ahead and duplicate that. We can also make all of these an auto layout container, but we don't have to right now, so we can do that at the end as well. So your to-dos. Now we need to create the component that we basically created here. And what we need to do is we need to first of all create a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a circle. I think I just want to make it 32 by 32. I'm going to give this a check/default. So the default check is basically just going to have a rounded corners. We're going to make it blue. Let's just make it, let's just make the stroke 300 and give this a background of blue 100 or something along those lines. So I think this is our default one. We also want to go ahead and create a checkbox inside of it. So here I created a checkbox using the pen tool. I want to say that it's going to be round. Going to give this a 3 pixel size as well. So here we have our default one. Going to make this blue. So blue 500, 600, probably 600 is fine. Well, maybe 500 is fine, never mind. So that's fine. Let's just go ahead and duplicate that, actually make it a component and make this a component too. And going to make this active and going to make this an inactive state. So in the inactive state, what I basically want is I want to make this particular check really small. So I'm going to say it's going to be 1 pixels, and I'm going to make it centered, and I'm going to reduce the opacity of it. And let's just go ahead and actually make these variants. I need to make some changes here as well. I'm going to remove the border here. I'm going to make this blue 500 by default, and I'm going to change the checkbox to white. So let's just go ahead and make it white. And here we basically have our checkbox. It's centered. Actually, we can make it slightly more visually centered by pressing down key. And I basically say that anytime we don't need to do anything else. So that's fine. So this is our check. Now we obviously want to go ahead and create our to-do items as well, which we can see here. So we have a title, we have a description, and then we have a check mark on the edge. So let's just copy our check mark here, give it a frame around it, and basically start typing the title. So here's going to be our title, and this is the title, and this is a description. So basically we have a title, and this is a description, and let's just give both of these an auto layout, make this regular, make this slightly light, and this probably can be larger than that, and then make these, actually give the whole thing an auto layout, and give a padding around the edges to be 16, and make this centered as well. So if I actually remove this, as we can see, it's still centered. Yeah, it still looks centered. The one thing that we want to do is actually just go ahead and give it a default height. So it's going to be a 72 pixel height. So now we basically have this our task/default. This is going to be a task default. And let's just go ahead and actually place it just to see how it looks, and then obviously we can change it later. So one thing that I want to do is I actually obviously want to go ahead and make it fill container. And one thing, I don't really like the padding on the left of it, so let's just go ahead and actually remove the padding on the left and the right. We can actually remove both of them. So let's just go ahead and remove them. I also don't like the background on the default thing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this gray 300, or maybe let's just make it gray 100. I think this looks good. And now change this title to be something, and change the name of this layer to be title. And these layer names in variants need to be unique, so anytime you're actually switching variants, it doesn't mess up. So let's just go ahead and actually, one thing that I actually also want to do is I want to have the what do we say, the trash can as well in there. So I'm going to go ahead and actually create a frame. So here we have the 72 pixel frame, and I can make this probably this color, or maybe red 500 should be fine. Let's just go ahead and actually find a trash can. We can use our Iconly plugin for that. Iconly trash bin or something. I don't know, dustbin. So it probably doesn't have the dustbin, but let's just go ahead and actually use trash from Font Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead, choose that, and pick the Font Awesome file. So here we have our trash can, and let's make it light and make it slightly larger and then center it. So I think this trash can looks fine. And obviously by default, in the default state, we don't want the trash can to be hidden, but let's just go ahead and actually, first of all, obviously, see how that looks. So let's just go ahead and actually move these into a auto layout container as well. Let's just change that to content. Let's change that to trash, and basically give a slight spacing in between of the check and the content. I think that's probably fine. And now basically expand it to whatever it is we want. So I don't want these to be fixed width. So let's just go ahead and actually make them content, or let's just go ahead and reset them. Reset all overrides, and basically just expand it to whatever it is we want. I think this looks good. And basically what we want to do on the trash state, so let's just go ahead and create a trash state as well, and also create a checked state as well. So basically we have another state. I'm just going to name this check. Let's just go ahead and actually select all of these. This is the check state. In the checked state, I want this to be active. In the trash state, what I basically want is I want this whole content to shift to the left, and this whole content to shift to be slightly visible. So I'm going to go ahead and first of all see all of these states here. I'm going to make this check looks fine, and then the trash state here. And in the actual default state, I'm going to make these red lines really minor because obviously it's not in an active state. I just want to hint that you can delete by using the swiping gesture. So let's just go ahead and do that. Now one thing that we actually need to do here is actually move all of these items to the left slightly. So if I, let's say, do that, as you can see, we have this thing coming from the left, but the problem with this is that it's not necessarily shifting everything. So one thing that I actually can do is I can go ahead and instead of having an auto layout here, I can just go ahead and actually select both those things and give it an auto layout here. So this is going to be the main auto layout. Similarly, I'm going to select these two things, going to give it an auto layout, going to say main here as well, and going to go ahead and select an auto layout and give this a main, an auto here, and then a main here as well. I want to do the same thing with the auto here as well, so that the content basically expands. Well, actually probably not even auto. Let's just go ahead and make this fill container and make this fill container as well, and make this fill container as well. So I think that's probably fine. Now let's just go ahead and actually start adding items. I think that looks good. And now what I basically want to do is I want to remove the auto layout from the parent container, because we obviously want this to actually slide in. So let's just go ahead and actually, particularly for the trash can, maybe not for the other ones, actually move this slightly off to the edge just so it's visible. So I think that looks good. And obviously this is actually clipping the contents. I don't want the content to be clipped. So I think that's probably fine. Now what I want to do is I want to say that once I actually start dragging, I want the trash can to appear, and I want it to move in from the right. Probably that's fine. So let's just go ahead and actually start it again, and I want to smart animate it. So we can definitely just start the animation via smart animate. So now if I actually see it here, as you can see, this looks good. Refresh, this looks good. One thing obviously that's not fine here is we have a clip content here as well, so I want to go ahead and remove that, and from here as well. So I drag it, that looks good, and I also want another state here. So basically if I drag it again, I want the trash can to disappear. So I'm going to go ahead and say on drag, I want to change it back. So on drag it appears, on once I drag it again, it disappears, and it can disappear here as well. Similarly on this screen, I want to reduce the opacity to something similar that's here. Let's just see what the opacity is. It's 20 here, so let's just make it 20. And yeah, I think that's how we actually go about creating this particular structure. So now that we have a structure, we can basically just duplicate our items from here. So the first one is work on UI designs. So that's here. And then create the YouTube video. We have something like this. Obviously we can hide the description if you want, and then create a YouTube video. We have it here. You need to post 3 videos per week. Let's just go ahead and actually add that. What else do we have? We have comment on YouTube. So now obviously I can hide the trash one, and let's just go ahead and duplicate this one. So you need to post 3 videos a week, and change that to a week. And obviously if you want to go ahead and press enter, you can, to actually have it multi-line. And then what else do we have? We have think about topics, about new videos, and let's just add one more item, which is read Figma documentation. So we have read Figma documentation here. Basically we have our items. I'm going to basically group these components into an auto layout and just move them to the side. So this is going to be our main screen, and I'm also going to give this a particular starting point. So here we have our starting point, just so I see that video. We obviously don't need this checked now. We can uncheck it, make it default. And basically here we have our items. I can start dragging to actually see the interactions. I can click them. Obviously I don't have the click yet implemented because I want the click to work once I actually go to the other screen. So basically I want to check this particular item off. I'm going to go ahead to this item here. I'm going to say that it's going to be enabled on this screen, and I want to say that once I, let's say, tap this thing, I want to land on this screen. And we can actually remove the flow from this screen, and let's just go ahead and actually create a tooltip. So I'm going to say checked off, checked create YouTube video, or maybe you can just say checked off create YouTube video. Give it an auto layout, change this to white, and give it a background, give it a border radius. And now this is going to be our tooltip component. Let's just go ahead and actually change this to 8,12 and basically place it at the bottom. I think the font size is definitely large. It needs to be 12, so I think that looks good. And here we have our item. So once I click on it, as you can see, it says checked off create YouTube video, and we can obviously change this to actually be strike through. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to strike through because we see it here as well. So click, it's strike through. We have the tooltip appear, and let's just change that to checked. And what I basically want on this screen, I want this to disappear automatically and this to disappear automatically as well. And instead of disappear, we can just say that it actually slides down if we want, if that is something that we want, or if that's an effect we want. Basically now we can say after a delay of, let's say, 2 seconds, we want these things to disappear. So that disappears and that moves down, and that probably looks good. So here we have it. Now we obviously want to do something about like the trash. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to say trash. This is going to be our trash screen, and basically we're going to remove this item on the trash screen, and we're going to again place our tooltip again on this screen and say you removed. Even before doing that, let's just go ahead and actually say that it's going to sit in the center vertically. And you removed, which item did we remove? This one, I think, yeah. So let's just go ahead and say that you removed this. And obviously we can make our tooltip centered, like the text centered, just so it looks fine. So now if we, let's say, click on this trash can, we want to say that we want to remove it. So I'm going to go to my trash can. I'm going to say go to this screen once I click on you, and basically let's just go ahead and do the whole flow again. And now if I click on the trash can, as you can see, we have the videos removed. And instead of a smart animate, we can actually do a dissolve in this case because the effect isn't what we expected. So check, it gets removed, and then remove. And then we have the tooltip, and then obviously the tooltip can automatically disappear on the other screen. Trash to, it slides down, and basically we can link it again. On click, dissolve, probably smart animate here, and let's just go through the flow again. Check, trash, and then the tooltip should automatically disappear, which it isn't because we have said that it needs to work on after a delay. So again, trash, and then it moves to the bottom. And this is basically how you use variants and you use components to create a simple application like this. Do subscribe, to hit the bell icon. Do let me know if you need anything else or you would like me to do anything else. But other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.